Alrighty. So I've already introduced the next two speakers, but the topic is actually Think Ikon First, the Department of Education's intranet journey from gobbledygook to plain language. Please make welcome Sharon and Brad.
Thank you. Hi everyone, that is a really hard act to follow. Thanks for that. Wow, super impressive. So it's been really interesting. Obviously, Department of Education, we've got some synergies, and also the migration project with OZeWAI, we've also got some synergies. So thanks very much for your time. My name is Sharon, and Ikon is the Department of Education's intranet. And this was our vision. One place for everything you need to do your job and everything to support you as a staff member. And that will be explained a bit on the next slide. And I want to preface this presentation by saying I am not a digital expert and I'm not an accessibility expert, so I'm not sure why I'm here, but please bear with me. And we are at the very beginning of our accessibility journey, so yeah, I feel a bit like a fish out of water in this crowd. And I've also got to wear my glasses to read. So what did we start with? We started with a really bad intranet spread over 3 legacy platforms. We started with, in addition to the intranet, we started with a portal, a staff portal with internal and external users, links to applications, role-based business systems, lots of junk, lots of outdated content and things like that. We also have a system called Connect, which is an integrated online environment for staff and students and parents, which allows collaboration and houses teaching and learning resources for our school teachers. We also have a public website and multiple Debt CMS sites. And when I talk about multiple Debt CMS sites, Debt CMS was our old platform that we built all our sites on, most of our sites, I should say. And we had 98 separate sites in total. And we actually had 68 separate intranet sites. So the really bad part about those 68 intranet sites was you couldn't search between them. So the content was impossible to find. And if you wanted to find something, you actually had to know who owned that content within the department. And that also was really confusing, and most people out in schools would have no idea that workforce owned this, or payroll owned that, or infrastructure owned that piece of content. There was a lot of duplication of content and multiple sources of truth. So a big fat mess. So our objectives with Ikon, and Ikon loosely stands for Information and Knowledge Online, is we want to provide our employees with simple, clear, fast access to all our services and information. And we want them to be able to do what they need to do easily and find the information they need to use in their day-to-day job without having to know who owns the content and without having to phone the department and be bounced around from person to person trying to find out anything they need to know or do. We basically want our teachers to be able to teach and have that time freed up for them to be able to do the great things in the classrooms that they do and focus on their core business. So in order for us for our employees to be able to find everything easily, we asked the question, what do they need to know and what do they need to do? And Ikon aims to answer these questions, and our content pages are called services. So we follow a service-based role, much like the Australian government websites and uk.gov. So, as I mentioned, Ikon is the Department of Education's intranet, and our audience is potentially anyone working for the department who needs to access information in order to do their job. At any given time, we've got between 45,000 and 55,000 staff members in the department, and we're actually the largest government employer in the state and around the second largest employer in general. So we're about the size of the city of Wagga Wagga, so we've really got a diverse audience. We've got teachers, front office staff, registrars, principals, cleaners, gardeners, psychologists, education assistants, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander education assistants, lots of public servants, all sorts of contractors that come into work, swimming teachers, ICT contractors, all sorts of seasonal staff. So it's a really broad audience. And while we're developing content for Ikon, we really make sure our content authors focus on making sure that the content is accessible for everyone. And obviously that's a really broad audience. So our new search functionality actually works, which is fantastic because it didn't in the old intranet, and we're really pleased with that result. And we basically ask people to treat us now like Google, just using keywords and key search items to find their content. Brad and I have been working on this project for a long time together, and he's actually sort of our content lead. So I'm going to hand over to him now to take you through a bit of our plain language approach.
Thanks, Sharon. All right. We were very fortunate when we got going. We were looking for some design principles and content principles that we wanted to put in place. One of the things about the 68 intranet sites that we had previously was that there was no central publishing place, so everyone was doing their own thing, and none of them were writers. They were all very much subject matter experts, so you can imagine what we got as far as content was concerned. From a technology point of view, we followed what Troy was talking about before. We didn't give them a tool and say, this is now how you're going to find your content. We had a survey of our users on what they were having problems with our initial technology, and then how could we make it better? What did they want in schools, so that teachers, we could free up their time so that they could use the great tools like Troy just showed you with their kids. So we put some content principles and design principles in place. We were very fortunate, as Sharon touched on briefly with .gov.uk, we were very fortunate that a lady called Sarah Richards was doing the job with .gov.uk, where we had 68 websites pulling together that were intranet sites. She had 178 public sites that she was pulling together, all government sites into one. So she'd done a lot of the research into content design and things like that we were able to leverage on and not have to start again. So some of the things we were looking for was keeping our customers at the forefront of what we were trying to do, certainly assuming no prior knowledge when we were writing as far as our content principles were concerned. We were told, we'll talk about this shortly, we were told that we were dumbing down the content that people in central services were writing. We were just thinking that we were making it more accessible for everyone to be able to read in schools, so it was a bit of a no-brainer for us. We are committed to a WCAG 2.0, which is and I'll talk about that shortly, as far as auditing that we've got planned coming ahead, and also publishing Ikon to a certain standard that we held for our 45,000 to 55,000 users that we thought they needed, so that all of them could read everything that we were putting together. Some of our points that we talked about were readability. Everything needed to be able to be read. Even the most trying to get the point across that even the most highly educated people can read plain English was something that we were pretty keen to get across. How users read for the web, it was something new for a lot of people from the department, so to take them along the journey and show them how people did look on a website and be able where their eyes were taken to and things like that, and I'll talk about some of the readability things that we put together in a minute. Audience and purpose is the first thing that we talk about every time. Every bit of content that comes over us is what is the user trying to do, and who is that user and what are they trying to do? And if they can't answer that question, then we sort of work with them to be able to do it for them. And then the accessibility. So again, it's a new thing for us, as Sharon was talking about accessibility. When you first mentioned it in the department, we had some glazed looks across a lot of our subject matter experts as far as accessibility. I shouldn't say this out loud, but we had a few teachers, a few people in central services, we don't have blind principals. That was 5 years ago. So the attitudes change a lot now, where we have people coming to us saying, is this accessible? So there's been a big turn over the last couple of years as far as the understanding and at least the intent to be able to make their content accessible. So we've had our content framework endorsed by a steering committee, which includes being, by the time we get to a certain phase in our project, that we are OZeWAI 2.0 compliant, and also meet the other things that were put into. I think we were all supposed to meet them from governments in 2012. We're not that late, are we? It's only 8 years behind what we were mandated at, but I think from the department, as far as WA is concerned, we're certainly pushing ahead a lot quicker than some of the other bodies. We are committed. We're going through a redesign, so we've had some feedback from our users already on things that they would like to see, some more personalisation in what we're doing. So we've already agreed that before we commence that, we're going to undergo an audit, an accessibility audit of what we have done. The group that's doing our IT work already has a relationship with WebKey IT, so I'd expect somewhere along the line that they'll come in before we kick off the next phase and do an audit so that we don't, anything that we're doing wrong, we don't push into the next phase. We do have, our team is really keen to get this right, so a few of them have gone through and sourced their own screen readers, and we're able to be able to get that technology on for every piece of content that we're creating. Feedback's really important to us, so our feedback's constant from our users. So we respond to everyone that feeds back to us, which is a couple of hundred a week, as far as teachers and central service staff are concerned. Things that they're coming to us that are negative is normally that they can't find everything. We're not migrating from our old intranets. We're actually auditing every bit of content and seeing if it does need to go up or not. Things like birthday rosters and who's going to clean the kitchen isn't really important to the teachers out there, so we're leaving that sort of thing off. But the positive feedback coming back to us as well is that they're finding things easy to read and it's saving them time, and that's the purpose that we had, and so it's really positive feedback. And the positive feedback outweighs the negative very much. So user testing, so we do have a group of users and a customer advisory group, though everything that we go out with that's new, we put to our customer advisory group to see if it's something, if it meets their needs that they first brought to us in the first place. So the design brief, these slides I'm sure will be available, and I'm running out of time so I won't go through every bit in here, but we did lean on our tech team as far as what our requirements were from the get-go to make sure that we were meeting the accessibility guidelines that were put to us as far as fonts and colours and things like that was concerned as well, and the behaviour, every new bit of functionality that we have. It's nice, and we sit there as a user and say this is what we want, but it's good to have some pushback and say that might be what you want, but there's certain people out there that won't be able to use that if you go along that line. So we've got that very good relationship that we don't take it personally when they tell us no, we can't have something. Plain language is something that I touched on briefly earlier that we've been very keen on. It's been a dramatic change in the way that the department has worked before. We've got some academics in there who are subject matter experts who think that they know better, and we've been called a cult and a religion because we're trying to bring in this new progressive way of communicating with staff. But we're very much understanding that we have a wide range of, we've got people who are brand new in certain roles, we've got people who have been there for a long time, we've got people who have English as a second language, we've got people who haven't had a great education that are working in certain roles in schools and in central services as well. So we're trying to accommodate, or we've got a goal to accommodate the needs of all of those people. So plain English we think is a nice common way to be able to do that, and we also have some translations as well that are coming from one of our areas too. Plus we understand that not everyone knows what people do in the department, so for them to be able to explain it to staff in plain English, I mean, the benefits are obvious. Find what they need, understand what they want, and for them to be able to accomplish their tasks. It's the first thing we ask: who's going to use this? What do they need it for? What are they trying to do? And before we publish it, we have a means to go through to tick off to say that this was successful because it met those needs before we actually publish the content. Readability, I've already talked about. hurry up you. I know I talk too much. Sharon tells me off all the time. We're aiming for a year 5 to 7, which is where we get the dumbing down for the academics who have been at university for years. So we are pushing back and making grounds as far as that's concerned. The old attachments to PDFs, we're trying our best. There's a love of PDFs at the department. We're doing our best to get rid of those and put as web content. And no more FAQs. If anyone read my profile online, I don't like FAQs. We get 3 pages of FAQs and we just don't understand. There's a fight, but we're winning it. Active voice, verbs in titles, short, simple sentences. Again, we're just trying to keep things nice and easy. I'll push through and show you some of our examples. I just don't want to miss anything that's important. So this is one of the examples. We use the Hemingway tool, and we've also got another tool called Site Improve, which tells us how well we're tracking. So this was one of our examples first on some suggestions for local resolution. It was a guideline that we were putting up as content on Ikon, and if you look, it was postgraduate when it was first done. We turned it into a service on Ikon grade 8. We were told the legal team won't allow that to be changed. The legal team's gone, great, how good's that? People can read it now, and they were on board. We've also just had unions come on board because people were telling us, you can't change that, your union won't let us. So we've gone and spoken to the unions, and they're like, yeah, that's fantastic. That's exactly what we want our teachers to be able to read. So we've had a win there as well. Here's one being able to tell schools on how to organise insurance for their school trips. That's what it looked like before. And that was postgraduate. Now there's some very easy steps on how to organise it. And again, that's probably year 6 or 7. Manage insurance cover for trips, easy steps. What's the process? These were documents that were put to as far as applying for LEAP, which is a program that we're doing. On the left, there's about 4 pages on how to be able to apply for it. We turned it into 1 page. And also understanding probation applies for your staff with related links there so people can easily get to all the extra information if they want to be able to find it. I'm going to push back. I've pushed too much as I normally do. Push back.
Probably going to hit the mark now. So, yeah, we really had to fly through that, but we're really pleased with the work we've had. It's been a really hard slog. People don't like plain language at the Education Department. It's a big bureaucratic machine, and the biggest constraint we've had is resistance to change. It's a daily battle. I've got a really great meeting to go back to this afternoon to have that exact conversation with our procurement area and to try and get them to actually come to the party, even though they've been involved in this process for 2 years. So very, very resistant. We've had good executive sponsorship of the project, but again, varying degrees. Middle management are a hard nut to crack. And yeah, as Brad said, we've had the main cry is you're dumbing us down, you're dumbing us down. How dare you make us talk to our principals? They've got degrees, they've got doctorates. And we're not dumbing it down, we're opening it up, and that's, we're resolute, and it's, it's been a really hard journey of change, and it's ongoing. So our project ends in June. The branch has been established as a permanent branch within the department, so we've just got to remain steadfast. But our staff love it. We're getting heaps of feedback about things being easy to read, things being able to understand their legal obligations. What a novel idea. So we really evaluate our feedback. We improve our content based on feedback. We're making primary teachers' lives easier, and that's exactly what we want to do. So the more and more feedback we receive from people, the people that matter, it strengthens our resolve, and we know what we're doing is right for our users. So thank you very much. We're always growing, we're always improving, we're always going to be focused on getting it better every day. Like I said, we're at the beginning of our accessibility journey, and we're committed to make it better and include everyone. Thank you.